What's up guys, it's Tundrum here, back with another video. Today I'm going to be showing you my 5-colour Changeling commander deck. Now Changelings were a tribe that first appeared back in Lorwyn block. None of them were too overpowered, but they did all have this ability saying this creature has every creature type, which is extremely useful. But there weren't really enough of them, or there wasn't a viable commander to make them a thing in EDH. Recently, though, in Modern Horizons, they've got a bit more of a push, and a few more Changelings have been released that have really actually made the deck extremely powerful. This video will be split into 4 sections: the Changeling section, the Tribal Lord and Payoff section, because we can pretty much put any Tribal Lord from any tribe in this deck, the Mana Fixing and Utility section, and the Mana Base section. Okay, without further ado, let's look into the commander. Morophon the Boundless. He's a 7 mana, 6/6 legendary creature Changeling with every creature type. And then he says, as he enters, you get to choose a creature type. You can just choose this whatever you want. And then it says, spells of the chosen type you cast cost Wooburg less to cast, which is 1 of every colour, but this effect only reduces the amount of coloured mana you pay. But this can make a lot of our cards just cost 1 or 2 mana, which is really good. And it says other creatures we control of the chosen type get 1/1, which is really busted. He's a great Changeling commander, and also great for almost any tribe. Now we're on to section 1, Changelings. First up, we've got Changeling Outcast. This is a 1 mana 1/1 Changeling, but it has this ability saying it cannot be blocked, which is really useful, but it also can't block itself. It's not an amazing card or anything, but the source of Changelings are quite scarce, so a card like this is a solid include. Next up, we've got Inquisitor of the 6th Pride. This is just a 2 mana 3/1 Changeling, but Changelings, like I said before, they are quite rare, and a 2 mana 3/1 just with the ability Changeling is still super OP in this deck. Now we're on to Shapeshearer. This is a 2 mana 1/1 Changeling, and it's one of our few actual Changeling tribe benefits, but of course any tribal thing benefits the Changelings. It says 3 mana for target shapeshifter becomes a copy of target creature until your next turn, which is really good. This can, if your enemy has something like an Emrakul or you have like one of your bigger Changelings, this can all of a sudden become a massive beast as well as your other Changelings. It's a super solid card. Next up we've got Woodland Changeling. It's just a 2 mana 2/2. But it does have Changeling, which still makes it a really solid card, especially in this deck. And yeah. Next up, we're on to one of the more powerful cards from Modern Horizons, Unsettled Marina. This is a 2 mana 2/2 creature Changeling. And then, well, Shapeshifter, but it has the ability of Changeling, of course. And then it says, whenever you or a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you get to counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1. This is super good. It makes them hard to point removal at your creatures, makes them hard to burn you, do anything to annoy you. Solid card. Next up, we've got Skeletal Changeling. Now, this is a 2 mana 1/1, with Changeling, of course, and then it has 2 mana, you can regenerate it. This isn't super busted, but this pretty much just gives us infinite chump blockers, and you never know. If you need to, you can attack him with a 1/1, but it often gets really big thanks to some of our lords. Next up, we've got Ghostly Changeling. This is a 3 mana 2/2 Changeling, and then it has the ability to pay 2 mana to give it 1/1 until end of turn. This isn't too good, but it can become massive late game, which is quite helpful. Now we're on to Moonglove Changeling. It's a 3 mana 2/2 Changeling, and you can pay 1 mana to give it Death Touch. It makes them reluctant to attack and deal with big creatures. Decent card. Next up, we've got Avian Changeling. Just a 3 mana 2/2 flying, but Changelings are quite scarce, and this is okay in terms of Changeling power. Next up, we've got Venomous Changeling. It's a 3 mana 1/3, Death Touch, and it's got Changeling. It makes your enemies really reluctant to attack into you, and it can get them for a little bit of chip damage. Next up, we've got Mirror Entity. This is one of the really OP Changelings. It's a 3 mana 1/1, and then you can pay X to give all your creatures have base power and toughness XX until end of turn, and they all gain all creature types, which is really good. If you've got 3 or 4 creatures, and then you activate this for 6 or 7, all your creatures become Titanic. It's a great card, really powerful. It's really good even outside of Changeling commander decks. Next up, we've got Tarian Mueller, another one of the really good Changelings. This is a 3 mana 2/2 Changeling, But then it says whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may put a 1/1 counter on it. So it just gets absolutely huge. Just one table rotation in a 4-player game of Commander, this is suddenly 6-6 or 7-7, and then another couple rotations, and all of a sudden it's like one hit, it's like a 20-20, 30-30, and it can one-hit people. Super OP card. Next up, we're on to Graveshifter. Graveshifter is a pretty simple but good card. It's pretty much just like Gravedigger. It's a 4-mana 2/2 Changeling, and then when it says it enters, we may return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand. Solid card, gives us card advantage, can get back one of our old cards that got demolished that are super OP. Really solid card. Next up, we're on to a regular cohort. This is a 2-mana 2/2 Changeling, and then when it enters, you get another 2/2 Changeling, but this doesn't seem that good, but 2 bodies is really good because we've got heaps of stuff that says draw a card for each creature of the chosen type you control, or things that give all your other creatures with vampire type, for example, 1/1. So this is a really solid card. Next up, we're moving on to a Chameleon Colossus. This is one of the more powerful changelings. It's a 4-mana 4/4, and it has protection from black, which doesn't seem that good, but most removal is in black, and it also makes black creatures impossible to block up, which is really viable when you look at its bottom ability. For 4 mana, it gets X until end of turn, where X is its power. With 12 mana, this all of a sudden becomes 32/32, and one hits a person unless they can manage to chump block it. And if you can somehow give this trample, well, I think the enemy's dead then. Super solid card. Next up, we have Karen Wanderer. This card I was a bit debatable about putting in the deck. It's a 5-mana 4/4 Changeling, and then it says as long as a creature card with flying is in your graveyard, it has flying, and the same is true for Fear, First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Haste, Landwalk, Lifelink, Protection, Reach, Trample, Shroud, and Vigilance. This doesn't have some of the newer keywords on it, but it does still get quite a few abilities. We don't have too many in our deck, that's why I was reluctant to putting it in, but I still think Changelings are quite scarce, and this is still up there with more of the better ones. Next up, we are moving on to Changeling Titan. This is a 5-mana 7/7 Changeling, and that's really it, except it has the downside of when it enters, you have to sacrifice it unless you remove another creature you control from the game, and when the Changeling Titan leaves play, you get that creature back. There's quite a few Changelings with this ability. This is the only one that was really good enough to put in, because it does have quite good stats for its mana cost. It's not an amazing card because you do have to remove something, but I still think it's worth the include. Next up, we've got Webweaver Changeling. This is a 5-mana 3/5 Changeling with Reach, and it says when it enters, if there are 3 or more creatures in our graveyard, we gain 5 life. It's a solid blocker, really good defensive card, can keep us in the game for ages. Good card. Next up, we have Game Trail Changeling. Now, this is probably the weakest Changeling in our deck. It only just made the cut. It's just a 5-mana 4/4 Changeling with Trample. That's it. Not a very good card. You can get 5-mana 6/6 or 7/7s with Trample, and they're not even too OP. But this is a 4/4. It can get in for a decent hit of damage, and is a good blocker. Next up, we're into Valiant Changeling. It's a 7-mana 3/3 Changeling with Double Strike. But then it says it costs 1 less to cast for each creature type among creatures we control. So, this essentially says, as long as we have a Changeling, it's a 2-mana 3/3 Double Strike, which is super OP. It's a great card. And finally, in the Changeling section, this isn't technically a Changeling, but I still think it deserves in this section. Birthing Browse. It's a 3-mana artifact, and we can pay 4 mana and tap it to create a 2/2 colourless creature token with Changeling. So a Changeling. 2/2. It can make us heaps of Changelings over the game, lots of bodies, which is really good for our lords. I think it's a really solid card. I might even see play in some other tribal decks. I think it's pretty solid. Now we're on to section 2, Tribal Lords and Payoffs. First up, we have Gemhide Sliver. This is a super solid card. It's a 2-mana 1/1 Sliver, but it gives all slivers, which if your opponent's running them is a bit annoying, but otherwise it's really good because all our creatures are slivers because of Changeling, have the ability to tap for 1 mana to add any colour. This is super good because it helps fix our mana, and if we have 2 or 3 creatures, it's insane ramp, and it taps itself too. Really solid card. Next up, we have Lord of the Unreal. This is trash anywhere else unless you're running Illusion Tribal, but it is really good in our deck because of Changelings. It's double blue for a 2/2 human wizard, but then it says all our illusion creatures get 1/1 and hexproof. So this gives all our Changelings 1/1 and hexproof. For 2 mana, this is super OP. It's a really solid card. Now here we have Risen Reef. Risen Reef is busted. It's a 3-mana 1/1 elemental, and then it says whenever Risen Reef or another elemental enters the battlefield under your control, you look at the top card of your library. If it's a non-land, you draw it. Otherwise, if it's a land, you put it into play. Super OP. All our creatures are elementals, so it's just going to be whenever we play a creature, we draw a card, and if it's a land, we get it for free. Busted. Must run this. Next up, we've got Knight Exemplar. This card is really powerful, and one of the reasons why a lot of people right now are saying Knights might become a thing of Modern. It's a 3-mana 2/2, Human Knight with First Strike. But then it says other Knight creatures we control, which are all our Changelings, get 1/1 and indestructible. Super busted card, makes us immune to ball wipes, really good. Next up, we've got Captivating Vampire. Really solid. It's a 3-mana 2/2 and it gives all our other vampires 1/1, but remember all our changelings are every creature type, so all of them get 1/1, and then we can tap 5 untapped vampires we control to gain control of target creature and it becomes a vampire. Super solid, is game winning if you've got lots of changelings, busted card. Next up we've got Death Baron. It's a 3-mana 2/2 zombie wizard. I'm not actually sure how this works. I'm not sure if it gives all your changelings 2/2 because these skeletons and zombies, or just 1/1. But either way, it gives all your other zombies and skeletons 1/1 and Death Touch, which is super solid because all our changelings are that. So it's a really solid lord, gives all our stuff Death Touch, and if it does do the 2/2, it's busted. Next up, we've got Stromkirk Captain. This is another really good vampire tribal card. It's a 3-mana 2/2 vampire with First Strike, but then it says all our other vampires we control get 1/1 and First Strike, which is all our changelings. Super solid. Next up we have Elvish Archdruid. This is busted. It's a 3-mana 2/2 elf, and then it says all our other elf creatures get 1/1, which is already good. But then it taps for a green for each elf we control. This can get you 4, 5, 6, or even 7 mana sometimes if you've got lots of changelings. Busted card. Next up we've got Drogskull Captain. 3-mana 2/2 spirit with flying, and it gives all our other spirits 1/1 and hexproof. All our changelings are everything, so all our changelings now have 1/1 and hexproof. Super solid. Next up we have Thundercloud Shaman. 5-mana 4/4 giant shaman, and then it says when it enters the battlefield it deals damage equal to the number of giants you control. All our changelings are giants, so this will normally be 4 or 5 damage to each non-giant creature. This pretty much just says deal 4 to 5 damage to each creature your opponents control. Super solid. Next up we have Timber Protector. This card is OP. It's designed for Treefolk Tribal, which isn't really pushed, but in this deck it's busted. It's a 5-mana 4/6 creature Treefolk Warrior, and then it says our other Treefolk creatures get 1/1. Remember, all our changelings are Treefolk. But then it says other Treefolk we control and forests we control are indestructible. So all our changelings suddenly become indestructible, get 1/1, and our forests are indestructible. Super busted. Next up we have the First Sliver. This card is really, really OP in our deck. It's a 5-mana 7/7 legendary creature Sliver with Cascade. So Cascade says when you cast the spell, even if it gets countered, you still get this, by the way. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is a 5-cost card that gets you any other card that costs less. And because it gives all our Sliver spells Cascade, which is all our changelings, which is super OP and gets us so many cards. But then when we cast the changeling, it goes Cascade, let's say 5-drop, until 4-drop, then 3-drop, then 2-drop, then 1-drop if we're super lucky. And then all of a sudden we've got like a whole deck on the field. Super busted card, you need to run this. Next up we have Unish, Cryosphinx Sovereign. This is a 6-mana 4/4 legendary creature Sphinx with flying, and then it says all our Sphinx spells, which is all our changelings, cost 2 less to cast. This is super good with our commander. And then it says whenever it or another Sphinx enters the battlefield under our control, reveal the top 4 cards of your library, and opponent separates those cards into 2 piles, and you put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard. This is super good because this essentially says whenever you play a creature, you get effect or fiction effect, which is going to get you, most likely get you another creature, so you essentially will have infinite cards with this, and they will cost 2 less. Insane. Now we're on to the Reaper King. This card's quite hard to explain. It costs Wooburg, but for each of those colours you have the option to pay 2 colourless, instead of the colour mana, and it's a legendary artifact creature Scarecrow, 6/6. And then it says all our other Scarecrows get 1/1, which is all our Changelings. And then it says whenever another Scarecrow, which is all our Changelings, come into play under our control, we get a destroy target permanent. This card is OP. It just like harvests, as it says in the flavor text, all your opponent's stuff, massacres it. It's just busted. One of the best bombs we can get in the entire deck. Insane card. Next up we have Dragon Tempest. It's a 2 mana enchantment, and it says whenever a creature with flying enters under our control, it gains haste until end of turn, which isn't why we're running it. The reason why we're running it is because it says whenever a dragon, which is all our creatures, enter the battlefield under our control, it deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of dragons you control. Super solid, can hit them for 1, 2, then 3, then 4. Really good card. Next up we've got Icon of Ancestry. When it enters, you choose a creature type, whatever you want. All your creatures of the chosen type get 1/1, and then you can pay 3 and tap it to look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card of the chosen type and put it into your hand. Card advantage, Lord stuff, everything we want. Great card. Next up we've got what is probably the best card in the Homeland set, which is the set it comes from, because that set was really bad. Didgeridoo. It's a 1 mana artifact, and you can pay 3 to take a Minotaur from your hand and put it directly into play. Now, all our Changelings are Minotaurs, so this is 3 mana to cast any Changeling from our hand for free. It's 3 mana Changeling, 3 mana Changeling. Solid card, good ramp, great card. Next up we've got Herald's Horn. It's a 3 mana artifact, and it says when it enters you get to choose a creature type. And then creature spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast, and at the beginning of your upkeep you get to look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. Makes all our creatures cost 1 less. Card advantage, almost always hits a creature. When we're hitting a creature we need. Great card. Next up we've got Descendant's Path. It's a 3 mana enchantment, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card that shares a creature with type with a creature you control, you cast it for free. This can often hit you like one of your bigger Changelings when you're on turn 3. Solid card, great ramp, because all our Changelings are, well, Changelings, so it hits each other. Really good card. Next up we've got Mass Appeal. This is a super solid card. It's 3 mana sorcery, and we get to draw a card for each human we control. Remember, all our Changelings are humans, so this often draws us 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 cards for 3 mana. It's an insane draw spell, must include, great card. Next up we have Harsh Mercy, sorry. It's a 3 mana sorcery, and it says each player chooses a creature type. Destroy all creatures that aren't of the chosen type. They can't be regenerated. So, no matter what, all your creatures are going to survive, and then there's a good chance you'll hit 2, 3, 4, maybe even ball wipe some of your opponents. A solid card, especially good in our deck because all our creatures are every type. Next up we have Call to the Kindred. This is a 4 mana enchantment aura, and it says you get an enchanted creature, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top 5 cards of your library. If you do, you may put a creature card that shares a creature type with enchanted creature from among them onto the battlefield, then put the rest of the cards in the bottom of your library. This is really good, because it essentially says at the start of your turn you get to look at the top 5 and cast a creature for free. Busted enchantment must include. Next up we have Crucible of Fire. 4 mana enchantment, and it gives all our dragon creatures free. But remember, all our Changelings are dragons. So this is just a 4 mana enchantment that gives all our creatures free. Super busted, insane card, makes all our Changelings massive, must include. Next up we have Crux of Fate, another really OP Dragon Tribal card. It's a 5 mana sorcery, and it says you either get to choose to destroy all dragon creatures, which you're never going to do because that just ball wipes you most of the time, or all non-dragon creatures. You almost always choose all non-dragon creatures because all your creatures are dragons, and your opponents are likely not to have many or any dragons, and then all of a sudden this is just a one-sided ball wipe for 5 mana. Super solid card, must include once again. Yep, great card. Next up we have Coat of Arms. This is busted. It's a 5 mana artifact, and it says each creature gets 1/1 for each other creature on the battlefield that shares at least one type with it. So this pretty much just says all our Changelings get 1/1 for each other creature on the battlefield. This is insane. It's 5 mana. Give all your creatures, let's say 10/10, 15/15, just whatever you want really. It just kind of says if this resolves and you have more than 2 or 3 creatures, you kind of just win the game. Busted card. Now we're moving on to Kindred Discovery. This is pretty much infinite card advantage. When it enters, you get to choose a creature type, and whenever a creature type of the chosen type enters the battlefield or draws a card, enters the battlefield or attacks, you get to draw a card. So this essentially says you just, whenever you play a creature, draw, whenever you attack, draw. It just goes draw, 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 until your deck's like, you can sometimes threaten to mill yourself out with this. So busted. There's a reason why it's worth $20. Next up we have Rooftop Storm. 6 mana, and it says we may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost of zombies we cast. This is super OP. It can often go infinite. No, we don't have any infinite combos, but it can kind of go infinite with our commander, because you sack the commander and then cast it for 0. Oh no, it costs an additional 2, sorry, no, never mind. Forget I said that. It just makes all our Changeling cost 0, super busted. Next up we got Obelisk of Urd. This is a 6 mana artifact, and it says when it enters we choose a creature type, and all the creatures of the chosen type get 2/2, which is really good. And then it also is Convoke, so it can often cost only 1 or 2 mana. Next up we have Kindred Dominance. This is a 7 mana thing. You choose a creature type, just choose something weird like Squirrel or Yeti or something like that, and then it just destroys all your enemy creatures because all your creatures are changelings. Really good card. Now we have Shared Animosity. Busted enchantment. 3 mana enchantment, and it says whenever a creature we control attacks, it gets 1/1 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it. Super busted. Can often give our creatures 3 or 4 power each extra. Really OP. Next up we have Endless Ranks of Dead. This is like busted. It says at the beginning of our end step, put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is half of the number of zombies you control, rounded down. This is really good because all our changelings are zombies. So we have 2, then we have 3, then we get another one, then we have 4, then we have 6, then we have 9, then we have 13, then we've got 19, then we've got, I could just go on and on. It's super busted, gives us infinite ranks of zombies, really good. Next up we've got Crib Swap. It's one of our Changeling tribal cards. It's a 3 mana tribal instant, shapeshifter, and then it says exile target creature, its controller creates a 1/1 colorless Changeling, which is, this is like, it's okay, not insane, but it is quite good because we don't have too many benefits for casting a shapeshifted card. There are quite a few discounts on it though. I still think it's a solid card. Also, fun fact, if you're running the Erd Dragon as your commander, this costs 1 less and becomes essentially a Swords to Plowshares. Next up, we're on to card section 3, Utility and Mana Fixing. First up, we've got Swords to Plowshares, like I just mentioned before. 1 mana, super solid removal, makes them gain a bit of life, but yeah, it's kind of just an auto-include. Kadama's Reach, super solid ramp, mana fixes you, gets you 2 colours you need, makes sure you don't run out of lands to play from hand, solid card. It's kind of just an auto-include in any green deck, one of the cards that makes green good. We're also running Cultivate. It's kind of just the same as Kadama's Reach, it's just not an arcane, pretty much the exact same. Next up, we have Mirari's Wake. Mirari's Wake. This card's kind of really good. It's an enchantment that gives all our creatures 1/1, and then it says whenever we tap a land for mana, we get an extra mana. This is busted. Doubles all our mana, gives all our creatures 1/1, auto-includes, super solid card. Next up we have Sol Ring. Sol Ring is kind of just like an auto-include in any commander deck where any card in their deck doesn't just cost like entirely coloured mana. Really solid card. Next up we've got Pillar of Origins. It's a 2 mana artifact, and then it says when it enters we choose a creature type, and then we can tap it to add 1 mana of any colour to our mana pool, spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. Solid, pretty much just taps for any colour of mana for our creatures, great card. Next up we've got Fel Warstone. 2 mana artifact, and it says you can tap to add to your mana pool 1 mana of any colour that a land an opponent controls could produce. Super solid, taps for almost always any colour of its 4-player commander. Solid card. Next up we've got Commander Sphere. 3 mana artifact, taps for any colour in a commander's colour identity, which is any colour, and we can sack it to draw a card. Good ramp, can get us cards later on, solid card. Next up we've got Darksteel Ingot. 3 mana artifact, and we can tap it to add 1 mana of any colour to our mana pool, and it's indestructible. Solid card. Next up we are running Chromatic Lantern. One of the most powerful mana ramp fixing cards in our deck. It's a 3 mana artifact and it can tap for 1 mana of any colour, and it says all our lands tap for 1 mana of any colour. Super solid card, good in any commander deck. Now we're on to section 4, Commander Base. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. First up, we've got the mana base, by the way, is just a recommendation from me. It's not essential. If you think you've got a better mana base, you can use that as yours. It's entirely optional. First up, we've got Command Tower, auto-include in any multicolour command deck, super solid. Exotic Orchard is essentially a Fellwar Stone but on a land, super solid. Ally Encampment, super solid, taps for any colour for our Changelings, and we can pay 1 mana, tap it and sack it to return a Changeling we control to our owner's hand, protecting it against removal. Unclaimed Territory, taps for any colour, super solid. Haven of the Spirit Dragon, super good, also taps for any colour, only for dragons, but all our Changelings are dragons. And then we can tap 2 to sack it to return to a dragon creature, which is all our Changelings, or the Ujin Planeswalker card from our graveyard to our hand, which is super solid. We don't have an Ujin, but returning any Changeling is super good. I suggest running all 10 of the tap for free colour into tap lands. These are all super solid. All 5 of the Vivid Cycle, they can tap for any colour twice, and then tap for their designated colour. And then Path of Ancestry, this taps for any colour, and then whenever it's spent to cast a creature spell, because the command is a Changeling, we get a Scry 1, which is really good. Next up, we've got Cavern of Souls. Now, this is really expensive, so if you can't afford it, feel free. It's not essential, but it is OP. It taps for any colour, and then makes any creatures we tap for with that colour uncounterable. Really good. Murmuring Bosk. It enters tapped unless we reveal a tree folk, but all our creatures are tree folk, and then it taps for 3 colours. It does sting you a bit if you tap for white or black, but it is still super solid. Ancient Amphitheater. Enters tapped unless we reveal a giant, but all our Changelings are giants. And then it taps for either red or white. Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds, super solid lands. And then for the rest of the mana base, I just suggest put in any shock lands or fetch lands you have or can afford, and then the rest just fill in with designated basics depending on what your deck is more like and more heavily colour focused on. And yeah, that was pretty much my list. If you like the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Make sure to check out my other videos, and yeah, peace out.